Why are so many of us struggling to make friends in adulthood? This season, we're getting real about what it takes to build friendships that don't just fill up a contact list, but actually add meaning to our lives. We're here to bust the myth that friendships just happen to happen on their own. Making friends, real, lasting friends, is a skill that you can develop. So get ready to be better at being a great friend and to enjoy every level of the wealth it brings. Better health, more joy, more success, and a deeper sense of belonging. This is a space for anyone who doesn't want to just talk about being a good friend or being a great citizen, but actually wants to live it and show up with integrity. Are you ready to dive in? Let's make it happen, one episode at a time. Hello. Welcome, dear listener. You have found a Worth Having podcast. I'm Nick, your host, and this is episode 15 in our season on friendship. It has been quite a ride. I have become the opposite of fed up with this topic. There are so many side branches I believe are really worth diving in deeper than we've already done on this season, but I will need time. So in this episode, I'm trying to tie everything together and come back to what I said in my very first episode. And when we look at the season, let's be honest, it was never really just about friendship. It was about people and peoplehood, as in like a neighborhood. How can we build that network of good people around us? How can we teach others to show up for each other using friendship as a tool? And this season has already been a little mirror, a little insight onto the how of becoming. If we practice friendship, we show up for other people, but through that showing up for others, we somehow become more ourselves, more the person that we like to be. We become through the people that we are with. So if you have been with me on this ride, you have met Natalia, my psychotherapist co-host, and you know we've talked about childhood friendships, adult messiness, conflicts, breakups, male friendship at the workplace. What else about compartmentalizing the work from the life part? That's why we're talking about work-life balance and how that is not so great. We've talked about the weird in-betweens of closeness and distance, the fakeness of fast friendships and their disappointments. And today, I hope we're coming full circle. Because I want to talk about friendship not just as a personal experience, but as something that speaks to bigger questions. Questions like change, growth, sustainability, leadership, collective healing, and a set of ideas known as the Inner Development Goals, or IDGs. Now, if you're already familiar with the IDGs, welcome. That tells me that you're probably someone who thinks about systems, change, culture, and how we grow the kind of people who don't just talk a good game, but live their values. Or at least we're trying to, right? And if you're not familiar with the IDGs, don't worry. I'll keep this human. So what are the IDGs and why were they created? The IDGs were created because the people working to fix global problems like climate change, poverty, and social and financial injustice, they realized something important. We already have all, or at least a lot of the technical solutions. But we are struggling with the human part. If we have the technology, if we have the knowledge, why are we not doing the change? And that's because people fight, they freeze, or give up when things get too complex, too emotional, or too uncertain. It turns out that the biggest blockers of progress aren't always money or tools. They are things like fear, the ego, distrust, short-term thinking, or plain and simply burnout. So a group of researchers, educators, and business leaders asked, what do humans need to grow on the inside so that we can actually build a better world on the outside? And that's how the Inner Development Goals were born. And who's behind it? Well, the IDG initiative started in Sweden. It's mostly through a nonprofit group called the Inner Development Goals Organization. They're working with researchers, psychologists, educators, and big global companies. It's now supported by people and organizations in more than 100 countries, including schools, governments, companies, and NGOs. The goal isn't to replace the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, so the SDGs, but to support them. If the SDGs are what we need to change, the IDGs is who we need to become in order to get this done. And the IDGs are broken down into 5 areas of personal growth. You don't need to master all of them. That's not required. You're supposed to see them as muscle groups that you are to build, to stretch, to practice on a regular basis. Number 1 is called being. It's understanding and caring for yourself, like staying grounded and self-aware. Number 2 is thinking, using your mind in flexible, open, and wise ways. Number 3, relating, learning to really care about others and connect deeply. Number 4, collaborating, so working well in teams, building trust, dealing with conflict. And number 5, acting, stepping up to lead, even when things are uncertain or difficult. The IDG community isn't just about reading the theory, it's about practicing it every day. How do you talk to your coworkers? How do you handle frustration? How open are you to different views? How do you show up when things get hard? So in very, very simple terms, the IDGs intend to help us become better humans so that we can build a better world. They teach us how to grow on the inside so that we're strong enough, kind enough, and smart enough, and feel that we have capacity enough to deal with the big challenges outside. So at their core, the IDGs are a framework of inner qualities like self-awareness, humility, perspective-taking, compassion, courage, that are seen as essential for tackling today's complex challenges, especially the big sustainability ones. And the idea is simple. How do we get to that change for a sustainable future? But instead of focusing on technologies or policies, the IDGs focus on us, the humans, on what kind of inner skills and mindsets we need if we want to build a better world. So let me take a little segue here. All of that sounds really noble, and it is. But as I was reading about the IDGs, and I went to quite a few meetings because their origin is Swedish and I live in Sweden, I kept bumping into something that felt familiar. All these qualities, empathy, integrity, openness, humility, listening, psychological flexibility, self-care, they are not just development goals in a framework. They are the stuff friendship is made of. And I'm not just talking about the nice friendships, but the real friendships. The messy, uncomfortable, stretching kind. Not the one that pretends that we only have good times, not just good weather friends. And also not the horrible toxic ones, but the ones that ask something of us, where friction and maybe cracks might be happening, where there's not only harmony but also disharmony, but we practice getting back to each other, back to harmony, and that is what makes friendships strong. The kind of friendship that asks something of you, the kind of friendship that grows you. So today I want to pose a few questions as invitations. Here we go. What if friendship, not the word, but the practice, is actually one of the best lived examples of inner development? And if it is, why are we not treating it as such? Why is it relegated to the realm of personal life, private chats, and weekend activities, while we build leadership frameworks, workplace strategies, change theories that all secretly crave what friendship already knows how to do? So let me show you the crux and say it in another way. Psychological safety is this holy grail of modern work and transformation. We know it's crucial, and yet most workplaces struggle to create it. But think about the people that you call friends. Why do you call them friends? Those are the people that you really trust. You don't need to perform safety protocols with them. It's not an engineered thing. It just is. Because you've been through things together. You've had conversations beyond transaction of information, beyond niceties, beyond the shallow talk. And because of that, because you've listened, you've seen, you have been seen, you've given feedback, you've taken feedback, you have been given space, and you have given space to others. And that's psychological safety in motion. So maybe instead of trying to reverse engineer it, we could study where it already exists and ask, what makes this work? What makes us trust here? What makes us personally scale that feeling of feeling something here that could be somebody nice, somebody cool, somebody interesting, somebody I want to have in my life, into that is somebody that I can actually work with and do great things with. And then we should maybe ask, can those conditions be replicated in other areas of life? Not copied, not forced, but designed for. Because friendship is emergent, not engineered. But we can design for the conditions that make emergence more likely. Because that's what the Australian research on psychological safety climate tells us. It's not about isolated behaviors, but about collective norms, shared expectations that care will be met with more care, that openness will be safe. The psychological safety climate looks at the conditions under which psychological safety is perceived as strong. So does that sound familiar? It's the same thing that friendship teaches us, just a little bit more intuitively and less academic institution or intellectualized blah, blah. And there's more. Another one of the IDGs is psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt, stay present, hold paradox. Now you tell me, when are we most flexible? When we have love for someone, right? When we care, when we are invested in the relationship between us, but also in the well-being of the other. So much so that we are willing to get uncomfortable ourselves so they have it a little bit better. We stretch ourselves for our friends. We reflect. Is what I just said, is that correct? Might they have a point? We regulate. We ask hard questions and we stay in the room with them. And last but not least, we change. Not because someone forced us, but because we want to remain connected. And because their point of view, their point of life, their mirror that they are holding back so we can see ourselves, shows us something that tells us maybe it's worth changing who I am, how I did things, how I approached it. Maybe there is something to it. And if they can do it, I can probably do it too. So what if friendship is the very muscle that the IDGs are trying to build? At the very beginning of this season, something came up that Natalia said that, again, somebody else told her, but it stuck to me because I think that is really what this whole thing is about. And the sentence was, it is always better to be with good people than with not so good people. And yes, that's something that you say with a wink, but it's so true, right? Friendship is about being with good people. And by being with those good people, we become good people too. We do that together. In another episode, I talked about the Michelangelo effect. That is how the people that we're spending most time with shape and form the person that we are becoming. And that's why we feel that we sometimes need to take a break from friends or feel the need to expand our circle of friends. The IDGs want us to grow into good people too. The ones that not only care theoretically about sustainability, but live by good example. Not abstractly, but people who give a damn and who also get things done and who also are contagious to other people to care more about the planet. So maybe these two, the IDGs and friendship, are in separate worlds. Maybe friendship and inner development are on different paths, but parallel tracks. Or maybe, for the most part, even exactly the same track. The one is deeply human, but also often under-examined or unexamined completely. But it's profoundly shaping us. Friendship is profoundly shaping us, but we never think about it. Or we only think about it when we feel that we're lacking it. And the other is structured and thoughtful and ambitious, but sometimes lacking soul or application. But what if the two of them need each other? So I don't mean to pitch that friendship is the answer to the IDGs or the other way around, but it's a question. If we believe the future depends on more inner development, then maybe we need to stop talking about that development in isolation. That is one of the biggest critiques that the IDGs have received lately. It's this isolated, one person, each to themselves kind of task. Maybe we need to ask, what's the most natural context in which people actually grow? Not in theory, but in the lived experience. And friendship, at its best, is a deeply fertile space for that growth. Nobody has such big influence on us as our friends. And that's where the feedback happens. And where blind spots soften. Where identity gets sculpted, or as psychologists call it, yes, the Michelangelo effect. Where we become not just who we think we are, but the sum of the people that we hang out with. Someone who loves us and sees what we can be by ourselves and together. So that's my riff for today. If you're working with the IDGs or trying to create change inside messy systems, I'm curious, what would change if you treated relational trust not as a soft skill, but as a strategic priority? And if friendship, real friendship, isn't possible in your work or your systems, then maybe the question isn't, how do we implement the IDGs? Maybe it's, why not? Why not explore how our people can be better friends to each other? So let me know what you're seeing. I'm not building a community, I'm building connections. So if this met you somewhere important, send me a message, bring me into your circle. I'd love to think with other like-minded people together. Because the future is better with good people around us. And good people usually don't walk alone. So this has been Nick. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for hanging out with me this season. Take care of your people. Take care of your friends. Create space so that you can have more friends. Maybe different friends that you think you could have. Explore the idea that friendship is definitely a great thing between two people. But it's also more. It's a social tool. It's your network. It's more than that private, intimate thing between two people. It can be something like a circle or a mini movement. And if you don't know where to start on how to try showing up like a friend, a pretty decent place to begin, I think, is this season. Check out the 14 episodes that I have recorded before with different guests. And for now, I'm saying goodbye till next season. I have a feeling that I'm not done with this topic yet, and that next time I record, I might be coming back to this. Merci et au revoir, c'est Nicole. À bientôt.